Welcome back. In other legal news, the Nigerian Law School last week Thursday had its call to bar ceremony for over 5,000 new lawyers. Against the background of complaints of falling standards of legal education in the country, I had a chat with the outgoing Director General of the school, Dr. Tahir Maman, who is due to bow out of office on the 11th of December this year. I believe it's appropriate to say congratulations on turning 50.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Okay. So 50 years, the law school was set up to provide a Nigerian legal education to foreign trained lawyers and to provide practical training for aspiring legal practitioners in the country.
Mm-hmm.
How well will you say that the institution has, fulfilled this mandate?
It has done very well, certainly. Before then, most people who want to become lawyers in Nigeria had to go abroad. Now everybody, the larger chunk of people who want to be lawyers stay back here. And much of the legal system of Nigeria is, of course, localized in terms of knowledge of the lawyers. Formerly, when people go abroad, it's about their statute, it's about basically their legal system. Now it is completely domesticated. And then coming to the vocational aspect of it, it is essentially to provide skills for lawyers, give them some orientation in terms of kind of reminder about the values of our profession and the society they are going into to practice. And by and large, that is what the entire program is woven around. And especially in the last 8 years, we have a very robust program, curriculum and teaching method, where students just don't just come in and start cramming as it were like before. Mm-hmm. They are quite involved in what lawyers are supposed to do when they qualify. They are challenged to generate ethical issues from scenario which is given to them.
Let's talk about the fees. The school fees keeps increasing. I know that it even increased, in your administration. I hear from 245,000 to 280,000. And even the cost of application form also increased from 15,000 to 20,000. Is that a fair amount to charge?
It's actually too low, if I may say so. It's too low. What the law school does is to serve as a kind of stopgap between the universities where the students are coming from and the real world out there. And so as much as possible, one of the major mandates of the law school is to provide a kind of model, serve as a model of what the life of a lawyer ought to be. And that sort of thing, if you want to be a model mentoring, you can't simply replicate what obtains in the universities. So with that type of amount, students get every service, accommodation, their books, other than food. That's the only thing which they don't get. Unlike, for instance, in the university where they still have to buy all the resources and pay separately for accommodation and all that. And in any case, I have always made this point as emphatically as possible, that education normally is funded in three ways. One, the parents and the students, making their contributions, government providing about a third of the cost, and then other philanthropic organizations and individuals, chipping in, providing the balance. So there's nowhere in the world actually, except very tiny countries with very few, very tiny population, like Finland with a population of 3-4 million, where education is really free. And if you compare what the law school is charging here to what obtains in the private universities, it's like day and night. So we are fully conscious of the fact that we have children and wards of students of people who are really struggling.
Yeah, well
who are
to
not,
do.
who are not
Because,
well
because I've
endowed.
heard people say that the fees are expensive, and that,
Yeah.
you know, it's as if we're trying to make it an elitist profession and
Yeah.
shut out the children of the poor people.
Oh no, we are not trying to do that, and that fees by no means is actually going in that direction, because as I said, we want to be a mentoring institution, and the law school has to be a mentoring institution. So all these basic things, like if we insist students have to be elegant, clean, well dressed all the time, you have to have water, you have to have light. If you look around the campus and all the campuses of the law school, you find we are more or less a government. We provide all the things which we are supposed to be providing. And furthermore, over the years, the government too has brought on board some policies which essentially have shifted the burden of financing themselves to some organizations. Like security, you know, is outsourced. You don't get money for that from government. Sanitation is outsourced. You don't get money from government for that. Medical services is outsourced. You don't get money from government for that. So when you have all these services and you have students and you have a community of people who live together for 24 hours, you have to provide all these essential services to work. And so by and large, ordinarily, if we're going to be fair, you know, to everybody, students of the law school shouldn't be charging, paying less than $500,000.
$500,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a bit more realistic. But as it is now, it's still quite some struggle to manage.
Yeah, because you have to manage the children of the poor and the rich and balance it all out.
Exactly.
But do you share the perception in the public that the standard of legal education has fallen?
I don't. Yes, there are challenges from the background of students. Right out there, we have two streams of education running parallel. The private schools, most of which are actually providing reasonably good education to students. And then most of the public schools, which are offering appalling level of education. Now, of course, at the university level, they mix. Okay, and while you may say which number is more, which number is less really, compared to the two. But we have to take into account the number of the institutions that we have also in the country. So when you have such a large number of graduates, the tendency a lot of times is to say, okay, because we find maybe 10 or 20 or 30 out of 100 students bad, so automatically the standard has actually gone. And I don't share that view.
Okay.
You know, it is the number game that seems to create that impression. Obviously, one cannot deny the fact that it can be better, but relatively, we have very brilliant students. We have very brilliant youngsters and girls coming into our education and doing excelling, both in the country and abroad.
You mentioned an important point, private institutions and public institutions. Also at the university level, there's private and public. But now, I know you were once an acting dean of the University of Maiduguri, Law School, Maiduguri. What is the advice that you would give to the universities, you know, to ensure that the products that come out of those schools are, you know, top-notch?
Well, number one is to admit the students with the right background, those who have met the requirements for admission. And then two, to resist the usual Nigerian factor. Well, a lot of times after the usual admissions on merit and the merit list, all other considerations come in. You know, children of big man, big woman, all that sort of thing. So, exactly. So at the end of the day, that number tend to overwhelm even the merit list. That's usually what is happening out there. Then thirdly, it's important for universities not to convert universities into marketplaces. You know, where the capacity, the carrying capacity of a university is really, say, 50 in a particular course. And then you go to that place and find 200, 300 or more being admitted. And you find students standing by windows, or simply not even showing up in class.
And there's no way to check.
No, they can't be monitored. You can't monitor that kind of number. So, and then of course you have a staff. Usually the matrix, the combination of staff across the junior, middle level to senior level is usually very heavy. Usually our finding across is usually very heavy at the bottom. The senior staff are very few up there. And then when even that few up there, they are very unstable. They are not stable at all. You know, a lot of people will find once they grow to the level of associate and then professors, they more or less abandon the university to the younger ones. And so they don't get good mentoring. So that kind of affects, you know,
because you do accreditation of
oh yes. These are
the things that you find out.
These are some of the things that we have seen.
And then how do you, what message do you give them? How do you resolve this when you find that the standard is falling when you go on your accreditation exercises?
Well, two things really, carrot and stick, as it were. We encourage them, you know, to keep to a certain quota. The council has resorted to providing quota to law faculties in particular, depending on their carrying capacity, which is number of professors, number of readers, senior, trajectory. And we insist that that quota be complied with. And then if universities don't comply with that, we usually take away the accreditation, as we did of recent with regards to two universities, University of Abuja and Madonna faculties of law. The council took away their power to admit law students. So these are some of the things that the council has been doing. And
I mentioned in a past episode of my program, you know, that I was going to get an opportunity to sit down and chat with you one-on-one to talk about some of the issues plaguing the law school after you've served, you know, for about 8 years and you're leaving soon. And I asked a couple of people to send in questions of what they would want me to ask you.
Okay.
And somebody asked this question. He said that he's worried about the way the law school treats lawyers who qualified abroad and have worked abroad for many years. That means they have experience abroad.
Yeah.
His grouse is that this law school takes no account of a foreign lawyer's experience. Now, he said in the UK, any lawyer from Nigeria who has 3 years experience can just do some exams and get admitted to practice in the UK. But here, it's a full course of study, no exemptions, and that is as if the Nigerian system is backward and unjustified. What would be your response to a person like that?
I wouldn't say backwards, but the fellow has a case. He raises some very interesting issues, which personally to him I'm interested in and care and concerned about. One, admission to the Nigerian bar is governed by law. It's not a matter of discretion, and the law says that clearly how somebody gets to be eligible to practice law in Nigeria. And but the main gateway is training in the law school. Now, there's a provision in the law too, which provides for some exemption, you know, of attendance of the general law school for those who have qualified, trained in some jurisdictions, not everywhere, with a common law background.
That's the bar part 1 exams.
Yeah, the bar part 1. Well, to exempt them from simply attending the law school and just give them a qualified certificate without even coming here.
Oh, there's a provision like that?
There is a provision, but the council is supposed to make regulations, you know, to guide, you know, the use of such powers. Those regulations were not made until 2 years ago when I made a proposal to the council adopted it. We now have a regulation in place for the admission to the bar of Nigerians who have qualified and have been actively practicing law there for a period of 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, the council has already approved that. Now, when the council approved it, it was the view of council that the view of the body of benchers should be sought. Not that it is required by law, but it's, we thought it's a good practice as a major stakeholder. And so currently that is the position it is now before the board of benches. Hopefully, they'll be through with it. But as you can see, that has a limited coverage because it applies only to Nigerians who have studied, qualified, and are actively practicing law, in a Commonwealth jurisdiction.
And they must have practiced for 10 years.
For at least a period of 10 years. They will come in, write examinations in the law school, do their dinner. These are the only conditions attached to it, and then they will be enrolled.
So there's a ray of hope.
There is a good ray of hope. I like, system should be fair and evolving. So we can't remain in one place. So that is what is on the table at the moment.